Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really fascinating document. It's simply titled Meeting Barbara, and it's a deeply personal, deeply spiritual case study all about what it means to have a truly destined relationship. We're going to break down exactly how this source material defines that kind of connection. Because, it's not just your average love story. It's actually a profound blueprint of intuition, prophecy, and partnership. It'll completely challenge how you think about the people who walk into your life. The text immediately hooks us right out of the gate by drawing a super sharp line between how we typically meet people and how true destiny actually operates. Think about it for a second. Ordinary meetings usually feel like a total coincidence, right? Just chance or a random roll of the dice. You bump into someone at a coffee shop, or maybe you get introduced by a mutual friend and it just feels totally accidental. But the source defines destiny in a completely different way. A destined meeting is never a surprise. It's foretold, it's dreamed, and most importantly, it is instantly recognized. It's just a completely different, incredibly deliberate framework for understanding human connection.
Okay, let's jump right into the first phase of this journey, the foretelling. This is all about prophecy and preparation.
Now, the story actually begins not with Barbara, but with a figure named Zoran. The author sets the scene during a private session in Phoenix. Picture this. It's a joyful, highly energetic room. The laughter is so intense it's literally shaking the walls. But then, out of nowhere, the energy in the room shifts completely. Zoran just pauses, looks directly at the narrator, and asks this incredibly piercing question. What do you think about women? And the narrator, totally caught off guard but honest, just says, I want to solve the mystery. So Zoran just blinks, smiles, and delivers this exact response. He says, someone special is coming. Very soon you will meet the woman of your dreams. Now the text makes an absolutely crucial point right here, and we really need to highlight it because it sets up everything that happens next. This wasn't some clever metaphor. It wasn't meant to be symbolic or some kind of vague spiritual platitude to make the narrator feel good. No, this was a literal, concrete prophecy given right in response to the narrator's deep desire to solve that great mystery. And get this, the spiritual preparation didn't stop there. That very same night, the narrator had this vividly clear, incredibly powerful dream. In it, they saw a woman. She was described as gentle, luminous, and strangely familiar. And alongside this striking visual, a mysterious voice delivered a crystal clear directive. It said, when you meet this person, get to know her. The narrator didn't know her name, had no clue when she'd actually show up, but the feeling of that dream, it was absolutely unmistakable. The spiritual preparation was officially complete. Which brings us to phase 2, the encounter, where destiny finally unfolds. You can see here just how fast all of this moved. It's wild. We start with that private session and the prophecy. Then that exact same night, we get the validating dream. Just a single month later, the physical meeting actually happens. And from there, it cascades into a marriage lasting almost 30 years. It really shows you how, when this source material talks about destiny, it's talking about an unstoppable momentum. It goes from a mystical prediction to a lifelong, grounded reality in the absolute blink of an eye. So, a month goes by. The narrator is just hanging out at a friend's house. The door opens, and Barbara walks in. Bam. The narrator recognized her instantly. Not because they'd ever met in person, but from the dream, the prophecy, and just that unmistakable gut feeling. But you know what I really love about this text? It's the narrator's reaction. They didn't rush her, they didn't force the situation or make some big dramatic scene. They just played it cool. The text makes such a profound point here. True destiny doesn't need pushing. It just unfolds naturally. The source actually breaks down exactly why she felt so familiar right off the bat. It clarifies that this wasn't just your standard déjà vu, it was a deep soul recognition. She had these very specific traits. She was kind, intuitive, grounded, wise, gentle, strong, and luminous. But even more than that, she carried the exact same spiritual curiosity. She understood meditation, energy, and the inner world just as deeply as the narrator did. She matched their frequency perfectly, completely validating that quiet voice from the dream. So what happens after you meet your destiny? That brings us to section 3. The integration and building a spiritual partnership. The whole setting for this integration was Sedona, and the text describes it beautifully as this red rock sanctuary. It's a physical place where the veils thin out and your intuition just sharpens. This is where the mystical prophecy literally shifted into everyday reality. Their lives intertwined in this serene, quiet little trailer right by Oak Creek. Now, Barbara initially came out just to rent the trailer for a little while, but as you can probably guess, Destiny had completely different plans for the both of them. And the reality of their connection quickly became super obvious to everyone around them. The source shares this great little anecdote about a couple of the narrator's friends, David Schweitzer and David Hassan. When they finally met Barbara, they immediately understood that the puzzle pieces of that wild prophecy had just snapped perfectly into place. The reaction was filled with this warm, lighthearted realization. They simply looked at her and said, "So this is Barbara." It's like the dream, the prophecy, the gut feeling, it all finally made perfect sense in the real world to the people who knew the narrator best. Together, they built a life that the author describes not just as a marriage, but as a true spiritual partnership. This whole thing was built on a rock-solid foundation of meditation, kindness, exploration, healing, creativity, family, and growth. They raised a daughter together. They traveled, studied, and awakened together. As you read this, you realize Barbara wasn't just a partner in the traditional sense, she was an anchor. She beautifully grounded the narrator's cosmic experiences, walking beside them as an absolute equal and a true best friend. The most crucial point in all of this is that this mystical, dream-fueled prophecy ultimately resulted in nearly 30 years of marriage. 30 years! That number alone visually grounds everything we've talked about today. It takes all those big, esoteric concepts like prophecies, intuitive hits, voices and dreams, and anchors them right down into the tangible, hard-earned reality of a 3-decade-long partnership. Destiny, as the author states, was completely and undeniably fulfilled. Let's look at what this all means for us in Section 4, the takeaway, or what the text calls the ledger of love. So these are the concrete spiritual lessons the narrator learned from Barbara over those 30 years, collected into what the text beautifully calls the ledger of Barbara. It tells us that love isn't just an emotion, it's a true partnership. Intuition isn't just a random guess, it's entirely trustworthy. Companionship is sacred, laughter is medicine, and family, that is a spiritual practice all on its own. The text reminds us that the universe truly does guide those who are willing to listen. As we unpack these insights, I want you to think about how you might apply these exact definitions to your own life and your own relationships. The document wraps up by echoing right back to the beginning with a final profound thought known as Zoran's whisper. He says, "Traveler, destiny does not shout. It walks quietly into the room. You recognized her because your souls remembered each other." Zoran notes that love is the absolute greatest mystery, and that the two of them solved it together. It's such a powerful reminder that true destiny doesn't have to be loud or chaotic or full of drama. It is quiet, steady, and recognized at the deepest level of the soul. Based on everything we've unpacked from this incredible source text today, I want to leave you with one final question. Are you listening quietly enough to recognize your own destiny? Because if destiny doesn't shout, but instead walks quietly into the room, is your intuition sharpened enough to actually notice it? Thank you so much for joining me in this explainer today. I really hope this sparks some deep curiosity about your own inner world and the destined connections waiting in your own life. Catch you next time.